The photographs my investigator handed me were taken inside the car I make the payments on, and my wife is in every one of them, and she is not alone. 6 weeks later, a police detective shook my hand and told me I was free to go back to work because of a badge log and a camera at the plant gate. We were married 9 years, no kids. It just never happened for us, and after a while, we stopped bringing it up. I run a unit at a refinery on the Gulf side, 12-hour shifts, and when a unit comes down for turnaround, the big shutdown where they overhaul everything, I take the doubles. My wife rents a chair at a salon in town. That is where I met her, year one out of trade school. She cut my hair before she ever kissed me. And when she wanted her own chair instead of a paycheck, her first month's rent came out of my first turnaround check. Twice a year, the union hall does a fish fry, and she used to bring her scissors and cut kids' hair for free on a folding stool by the fence. People loved her. I did too. She has done the same women's hair for years, wives mostly, standing appointments, and she knows everything about everybody in town. Year two of our marriage, she had a temper, a coffee mug through the glass of the storm door, over a parking ticket. She went to counseling for it, a full year of it, every week, and she did the work, and I respected her for that. She learned to count, to step outside, to come back and stay calm. I replaced the door glass myself and never brought it up again. For 7 years, I never saw that side of her again. Last spring, it came back, and it took me too long to see what it was for. The fight started from nothing, and they started on a schedule, a dish in the sink on a Friday afternoon. The way I said the word, fine. She would build it up until she could slam the door, and then she was gone, cooling off, and the cooling off took 4 hours. The first time, I apologized when she got home. The second time, I apologized again, and I remember thinking, I do not even know what this fight was about. The third time, I did the math. Every one of those fights had bought her a Friday night. She always said the same thing on the way out, that the girls from the shop met at the wing place on Fridays. One Friday, I drove past it. Her car was not in that lot, and I drove home, and I said nothing. So I started writing the dates down, 5 fights in 9 weeks, and not one of them landed on a Monday or a Wednesday. Friday, Friday, Saturday, Friday, Friday. And I had been apologizing to her on top of it. I did not follow her, and I did not touch her phone. I have seen men at the plant rip their lives apart chasing a phone. I asked my crew chief for the name of the man he used during his divorce, and he wrote a number on the back of a work order and did not ask me anything. The woman turned out to be a retired sheriff's deputy, and she listened to my Friday dates, and she said, the dates are all I need. I just go take pictures. $6,200 for 3 weeks of Fridays. I paid it out of my overtime account. The next Friday fight came right on schedule, over the garage door being left up, and she slammed her way out of the house at 6. And this time, I ate my dinner and let the professional work. Those 2 weeks, I ate dinner with her every night and asked about her day. She made brisket twice, and she told girls' night stories with the names and laughing in them, and I asked follow-up questions, and I hated how good I got at it. She called me on the third Sunday and asked me to come by the office, and when she would not say it on the phone, I already knew. She had 3 folders, one for each Friday since the day I called her. She put my handwritten dates next to her photograph dates, and they matched every one. Same man in every folder. I did not know him. A landscaping company's name ran across the side of his truck, and the investigator had run the plate before she ever called me. The husband of one of her Saturday regulars, a woman whose hair my wife has done for 6 years. 3 Fridays photographed, and not one of them was a wing place, and there were never any girls. She saved one folder for the end, and she said, I need you to stay seated for these. The car, my car, the one with my name on the note, the one I put her in 3 years ago, so she would stop driving that dying hatchback to the salon at night. Parked behind a boarded up produce stand, 3 Fridays in a row, windows fogged, and the timestamps ran 90 minutes at a stretch. There are photographs of my wife in that car that I will carry in my head for the rest of my life. I paid for that car, and I paid for those photographs with the same overtime. I asked her what she charged to keep going, and she closed the folder and said, "My job here is done. Go hire a lawyer." The Saturday after I saw those photographs, I opened a box at the bank and moved the deed, the titles, my passport, and a copy of every photograph into it, and I was home before she finished her shift. The lawyer I hired keeps an office across from the county courthouse, and she had the photographs spread and sorted inside 10 minutes. She said, "Texas is a community property state. Everything the two of you built belongs to the two of you, and a judge splits it the way the judge finds just and right. And with adultery in photographs," she said, "just and right tilts your way. The house, the accounts, the vehicles, all of it sits in one pot, and the bigger share of that pot is yours to ask for." Then she asked me how long we had been married, and I said 9 years, and she sat back and clapped her hands. She said, "Spousal maintenance in Texas has a cutoff, and the cutoff is 10 years. 9 years married, no kids, a woman with her own income and her own chair at a salon. She can ask, and she will lose. She is 1 year short." Then my lawyer put the photographs back in the folder, and her voice changed. She said, "You told me the year two story yourself, and I have seen the pattern in your investigator's report. A woman this angry, staring at a divorce this bad for her, sometimes goes looking for a story to tell. So, from today, you are never alone with her, not in the house and not in a parking lot, not even for 5 minutes. You sleep somewhere else, you keep your badge logs, and you let the plant cameras be your witness, and do not move a dollar out of the joint account. If she empties it, every cent comes off her share, and I would rather have the exhibit." I thought she was being dramatic. I did what she said anyway, and it is the best legal advice I have ever gotten in my life. I took a room near the plant, and I picked up every double they would give me, and my wife got served on a Friday at 10 in the morning at the house. The first voicemail came at 7 minutes past 10, screaming about a man in a golf shirt at her door. By the next Friday, there were 37 of them. I never answered one, and I never deleted one either. My lawyer called every one of them an exhibit. 9 days after the serve, the joint checking dropped to $40 in one afternoon. My lawyer filed for temporary orders the next morning, and a judge froze what was left and wrote down what was gone. 2 weeks later, we were in front of a judge for temporary orders, and that was the first time I saw my wife across a courtroom. Her lawyer asked the court to give her the house while the case ran, plus interim support, on the grounds that I had abandoned the home. My lawyer answered by asking permission to play a voicemail, and the judge allowed it, and she picked number 16. 40 seconds in, her lawyer objected, and the judge raised one hand and listened to the whole thing. Nobody in that courtroom looked at me while it played. They all looked at her. The judge left her in the house for the time being, put the note in my name to keep paying, and denied the interim support in one sentence. Every dollar she grabbed early came off her share later. The rage in the voicemails climbed. The early ones wanted to talk. The middle ones called me every name there is. The last ones went quiet and flat, and the flat ones scared me more than the screaming, because that was the voice from year two, from before the counseling. The week the voicemails were at their worst, she came to the plant. Shift change, 6 in the morning, and she was standing at the visitor lot fence line where the trucks file out, waiting for my car. I saw her from inside the gate, and I did what the lawyer said. I turned around, badged back in, and called her from the break room phone where the calls are logged. I said one sentence, go home. They log every plate at this fence, and I hung up. The gate guard logged her plate at 6:02 and again at 20 to 7 when she finally pulled out. She got turned away in front of a shift change full of men I have worked beside for years. That was on a Monday, the first Monday of turnaround. Then the voicemail stopped all at once, and I told myself the storm had passed. She was getting ready. The unit came down for turnaround the last week of that month, and I was pulling doubles, 6 at night to 6 in the morning, and then daylight shifts on top, when a board man, one of the control room operators, called out sick. I badged through the gate at 5:40 on a Friday evening and did not badge out until 6:15 the next morning, and there is a camera on that gate and a camera in the control room and 2 operators who stood next to me the whole night while we brought the unit back up. That Friday night on the 6 to 6, we caught a valve problem at 2 in the morning and worked it to the ground, and the board man bought breakfast tacos at 6, and I drove to my rented room with my ears ringing and slept hard. Monday morning, 2 police officers were waiting in the front office of the plant with the HR man, and they asked me if I knew why they were there, and I said no, because I did not. They had knocked at the house over the weekend, but I did not live there anymore, and nobody had the address of a rented room. They said that on Saturday morning, my wife had walked into her salon with bruises on the left side of her face in front of her first client of the day, and told the room that I had come by the house Friday night and done it to her. The salon owner called the police, and I have never once blamed that woman for it. The officers asked me where I was Friday night. I told them, and then I did exactly what my lawyer had drilled into me. I said, the plant has me on camera at the gate, my badge swipes are time-stamped, the control room camera runs all night, and the names of the 2 men on the board with me are on the shift sheet, and I will not say another word without my lawyer, and I want you to have all of it. The HR man pulled the badge log while they stood there. By Monday afternoon, 2 guys on my crew had heard the story from their own wives. My crew chief said, we pulled that same double. Tell the detective to come ask me. 4 men offered to sit with that detective before lunch, and nobody asked me a single question about it, and that is the plant I work at. The detective came back Wednesday, watched the gate footage with the plant manager, and shook my hand in the parking lot. He said, you are free to get back to work. Then he said, the question of where those bruises came from is a different kind of question now, and her name is the one attached to it. The night the detective shook my hand, I sat on the bed in that rented room and cried like a kid, and it was not sadness. It was the pressure coming off. Where the bruises came from, I never found out. Nobody was ever charged, and I stopped asking. All I know is they did not come from me. When the police file crossed into the divorce case, I went through her statements myself. The first one, Saturday morning, says, my husband came to the house Friday night and did this to me. The second one, 4 days later, after the badge log surfaced, says, I never said I was certain it was him. 2 statements, 4 days apart, in her own handwriting, and the second one takes back the first. My lawyer filed the badge logs, the gate footage, and the detective's report into the divorce the same week, right on top of the photographs, the voicemails, and both of her statements. Somewhere in those weeks, her mother called me one time. She did not defend her daughter, and she did not bury her either. She said, I saw the year 2 version. I know what you lived with. And then she said, but she is still my child. I told her I understood both sentences, and we have not spoken since. Her first lawyer's last real act was a motion to keep the police file out of the divorce case, arguing it was prejudicial. The judge let it in, and the reasoning was simple even to me. Her 2 statements were her own signed words, and she was the one who put those bruises in front of this court. Her first lawyer quit the case 2 weeks after the police cleared me. The second lawyer she hired was the one who ended up making the call. My lawyer figured the second one had taken the case, thinking it was a fight over a house. Now, he was holding a client with adultery in pictures, a false report on a police blotter, and a temper the whole courtroom had already heard on voicemail. He called my lawyer the same week and asked what it would take to settle everything. There was one settlement conference in a conference room at the courthouse annex, both lawyers, a mediator, and the two of us at opposite ends. She came in small and quiet, and for the first hour, she let her lawyer do the talking. Her side opened by asking to keep her retirement and half of the house, and nobody in that room pretended it was a fight. Then, near the end, she asked the mediator if she could say something to me directly, and the room let her. She said, 9 years does not just end. People go to counseling, people fight for it. I was going to counseling again already, and if I would just agree to try, all of this could stop today. I said, you put my name on those bruises. And I watched her fight the year two voice back down in front of a mediator and two lawyers. Somewhere in that hour, her lawyer leaned over and told her something short, and I watched her stop writing. My lawyer told me after that was her own lawyer repeating the arithmetic she had been refusing to hear. The mediator called a recess. The deal signed that afternoon. The court found the adultery, and the split went my way, just and right, the way my lawyer promised. I kept the house and bought out her share of it at a number her own lawyer called generous. My retirement stayed whole, and the car stayed mine. Her lawyer never said the word maintenance, and he never had to explain why. The false report never turned into a charge. The county kept the file open a while, and my lawyer says that is common. The final hearing took under 10 minutes. My lawyer asked me the questions they always ask, whether the marriage was insupportable, whether my wife committed adultery, whether the agreement was my free act, and I said yes 3 times. And because we pled it and proved it, the decree that came out of that courthouse says the word adultery on page 2 in black ink. Her side asked twice for the decree to leave the adultery out and say insupportability alone, and my answer never changed. The divorce was final before the next turnaround. The house is emptier, and I have stopped noticing. Word got around the salon inside a week. Her Saturday book was Wives, and one of those wives was married to the man with the truck. I never had to tell a soul. The police blotter prints in the county paper every week, and it prints names. Months after it was over, the salon owner stopped me in a parking lot and told me what that Saturday morning had looked like from behind the register, the bruises, the announcement, the client who set her coffee down and left without paying. Then she said, for what it is worth, none of us believed it past lunch. She also told me the landscaping trailer stopped showing up on half the streets it used to because the wives are the ones who hire the lawn service too. By fall, my ex-wife had given up the chair and moved away. The man with the truck is still married, from what I hear. I pulled up next to that truck at a red light once, months after, and he looked over, and I looked back, and the light turned green. I heard from her exactly once after the decree, a call at 2 in the morning in the spring, which I did not answer, and which she did not repeat. I sold nothing. I moved nothing. I am still in the house we built. I repainted 2 rooms that fall, both in colors she had voted against. The car came back on the last day the decree allowed, parked crooked across the driveway, keys mailed separately in an envelope, not one word with them. The inside smelled like a bar. I spent a Sunday on it, both seats out on the lawn, every mat on the fence line, and I drove it to the plant Monday morning. It sits in the same spot in the driveway now, and the note on it gets paid on time, by me, same as it always was. The fish fry came around again in the fall, and I went, and nobody made it strange. A lineman's wife cut the kid's hair this time on the same folding stool by the fence, and I still take the doubles when a unit turns around. The overtime is mine now, all of it. Well, in my opinion, the cheating is not even the worst thing this woman did. Cheating breaks a marriage. A false police report tries to break a man. She sat in that salon with bruises on her face and pointed at a husband who was 12 hours deep into a double shift. And if that plant camera had been broken, he is in a cell and his name is gone. Think about that. This man paid for the car she cheated in, the chair she worked out of, and the roof she slept under. And her thank you was a story that could have ended him. And the temper history makes it worse, not better. She did a full year of counseling. She learned the tools, and that means every Friday fight was a choice, and the lie was a choice. The man with the truck is a coward twice over. He knew exactly whose car that was, and when the false report landed, he never opened his mouth. The best part of this story is the time card. No screaming, no revenge, no drama. A badge log, a gate camera, and 4 co-workers lining up to tell the truth, and an honest man's boring night at work beat her whole story in one afternoon. Then Texas finished it. The bigger share, the house, the car, and not $1 of support because she came up 1 year short. 9 years of marriage, and the one thing she could not do was wait. He kept the house, he kept the car, and he kept his name. She kept the bruises story, and nobody ever believed it, not even her mother. Some of these stories are starting to sound like broken game shows. The only prizes you win are stupid prizes. See you in the next one.